Hi and welcome to my new video about what exactly is Monitor in the context of the Safe for DevOps Health Radar. Please note that everything that I'm going to say and everything that I'm going to show you is under the license of Scaled Agile. Please also note that the Scaled Agile framework is a framework. Use it as a toolbox. Take out of this toolbox what fits your need and what solves your problems. This video is part of a series of videos where we are going through the Safe for DevOps Health Radar. Everything starts with the customer and the business. They have bright ideas and we need to take these bright ideas and put them into a hypothesis statement which we then put into epics. After we have identified what exactly the hypothesis behind the idea is, we will go into collaborate and research where we are going to identify what exactly is the real customer need and what exactly is the real market need. After that, we are going to identify what the minimal amount of architecture is to prove this hypothesis. After that, we are going to break down the epic into features which we then put onto our backlog so that we can implement them. In the develop step, we are going to break down all of these features into user stories, which we then are going to implement. When we commit the code, then our continuous integration server will build the code into a deployable package. The deployable package will then be tested and deployed to a staging environment. Then we are deploying the package into the production environment and verifying if everything is still okay in the production environment. And of course, after that, we need to monitor our production environment. But why are we doing this and how do we do that? Let's have a look. Monitoring production means that we can track down features, that we are able to identify what the system performance is in production, what kind of incidents we have, or what end user behaviors we are having, and of course also to identify the business value which we are delivering with our features. We monitor because we want to ensure that production is running as smooth as possible. And for that, we need to gather a lot of data, but not only that, we also want to identify the business value and if we reach the business value. Remember back in the hypothesis step, we talked about the business hypothesis. There we identified what kind of business value we want to deliver. Here in the monitor step, we are going to measure the business value. And we do that by using full stack telemetry. Perhaps you remember back in the architect step. There we have identified that we need to architect for probability. This means that we need to identify what kind of data we need to log out. In the develop step, which you can see here, there we have logged out all of the data that is needed to operate this system. And now in the monitor step, we are going to collect all of these log files and we are putting these log files into a telemetry system so that we can browse through these log statements. You can see down here an example how this looks like in real life. What is important is that we need to log out different types of data. Of course, we need to log out application relevant data so that we can track down issues. But not only that, we also need to log out business data so that we are able to validate the business hypothesis. You can see in this example down here that having the data and only the data in that form is quite hard to read. Therefore, we are using visual displays like this example down here to visualize all of that data so that they are not anymore so hard to read and you can interpret better the information. In these dashboards, we can show different DevOps metrics, like for example, last deploy or the outages, average lead time, and so on. But not only that, in these dashboards, we also can show the end user behavior and how the business value is developing. Therefore, it is important that the entire organization has access to these dashboards. But doing the monitoring only on a single application is not enough. What we also have is we have application with dependencies to other application. And this is also something we need to monitor. And the application itself, they have also dependency to the infrastructure. So we need to consolidate all of these monitorings or all of these telemetry data into a consolidated view, which is the federated monitoring. Only with federated monitoring, we get this holistic view where we can really track down performance problems and issues across application and across the infrastructure. And now that we are monitoring different application and the infrastructure, we have a problem. We have so many data points, so many events, so many alerts that it gets very difficult to make sense out of all that data. So we have a big data problem. And what helps with the big data problems? Yes, AIOps. AIOps stands for Artificial and Operation. And there, AIOps will aggregate all of the data, it will correlate the data and analyze the data. AIOps can identify and also do the prediction of root cause analysis so that we can track down issues. And of course, it is also able to detect anomalies in our application landscape. You can see here an example of such an AIOps tool where you can see all of the dependencies on which you have in your application landscape and where you can track down issues through all of these dependencies. So what do we get when we are doing the monitoring? We can track and monitor our features. We can see if our features are used, and with the end user behavior, we of course also can track down the features, can see how they are used, and if they are used in that way we have designed them. Another thing we can do is we can track down the system performance. We see how the system is performing in production, if we have any performance problems, how our APIs are doing, all of that. And of course, monitoring helps us preventing incidences, but it also helps us analyzing incidences. And the most important thing is we can measure the business value. Again, back in the hypothesis, we said that we need to identify what exactly the hypothesis behind an idea is, and we identify what is the business value we want to achieve with this hypothesis. And here in the monitoring step, we are going to measure this business value so that we can prove if the hypothesis is true or false. Of course, there are many tools which support us in monitoring. You can see them here in the periodic table of DevOps tools. Of course, this periodic table does not show all of the tools that are on the market, but it shows the commonly used tools in the area of monitoring. The Safe for DevOps Health Radar is an assessment, and this assessment can be downloaded through this link down here. It is in an Excel file where you can assess yourself in the different areas of the DevOps Health Radar. So monitoring implies that full stack telemetry is active for all features deployed through the continuous delivery pipeline. so that system performance, end user behavior, incidents and business value can be determined quickly and accurately in production. Please rate your team's effectiveness at monitoring the full solution stack and ability to analyze features value based on these events. You are a SIT when no feature level production monitoring exists, only infrastructure monitoring is in place. You are crawl when features only log faults and exceptions, analyzing events evolves manually correlating logs from multiple systems. And you are a walk when features log faults, user activity and other events. Data is analyzed manually to investigate incidents and measure business value of features. And you are a run when full stack monitoring is in place. Events can be correlated through the architecture. Data is presented through system-specific dashboards. And you are a fly when Federated monitoring platform provides one-stop access to full insights. Data is used to gauge system performance and business value. To operate an application or a system, it is important to have monitoring in place. Monitoring enables us to see how our features are used. We can see how the end user behavior is, we see the system performance, and we can analyze issues that happen in production. But the most important thing about monitoring is that we can also analyze the business value. And this enables us to go back to the hypothesis, to the initial hypothesis which we had, where we wanted to create business value. And by tracking this business value, we can enable the business to do the right decisions. Such a decision can be, do we invest more into this feature or less into this feature? Are we going to enable this feature in production, or are we going to disable or completely remove such a feature in production? Monitoring is a crucial piece which we need to close the feedback loop so that we can make the right decisions, so that we are able to build the right thing right. And with that, we are at the end of this video. Please leave me a thumbs up if you liked this video, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel because I will create every week a new video for you.